Well, hello and welcome or welcome back to Read Becca. It's time to catch up on some books. So let's talk about the romance books I've read recently. I read 2 books by an author I know and love and one from a new to me author recently. And all of them are fairly recent releases as well. So let's catch up on the new to me author first, which is a full-length historical romance novel. We are talking about A Sure Thing by Joanna Lovell. And this is a Victorian set, I think, somewhere roughly around there, in Cornwall, England. We're following Kit as he has moved recently to Cornwall and opened a bike shop. And he is out one day, has a literal crash into Muriel, and then also encounters someone from a rival bike gang. I kind of have to phrase it that way. But yeah, literally a rival bike gang, a group of riders who prefer a certain type of bike, the more high-set bikes. And meanwhile, Kit is trying to pedal these bikes that are more accessible, I guess. And they get into a bit of a spat, and Muriel, being conveniently there, is somewhat volunteered or pulled into it, in that women don't ride bikes during this time. And Kit is going to teach a woman to ride, and then they're going to go on a lengthy riding tour, all of them, the rival bike gang and Kit and his pupil, to show that women can in fact succeed just as well on these bikes. And so that's kind of a straightforward yet overly convoluted premise, I guess. And that doesn't seem like it would have a lot of meat to its bones, and it kind of doesn't. So beyond that, in the background, we're dealing with the fact that Muriel is also a woman naturalist, and she has been asked to speak, or she has sought out to speak at a conference, but been assigned seaweed, and she doesn't really want to talk about seaweed. And so she also needs some drawings for this conference that she's going to be speaking at. Kit, while he is selling bikes now, he in fact is leaving a life where in the past he was an outspoken feminist and part of a sisterhood of women artists. So he has recently moved in order to live openly as a man now. So this is a trans man historical romance. And he didn't feel he could remain part of a sisterhood, obviously, as part of that transition. And that has led to some trauma surrounding art, and he literally cannot even continue his artwork. But because of the whole setup of this story, naturally, Muriel is looking to Kit for the seaweed paintings, and he grudgingly agrees somewhat after a little while of their bike training that he's going to go along with attempting that, because they have slowly gotten closer. However, that takes so long. So I did enjoy this. And I would say, like, what I enjoyed about this was so much that it's very quiet and calming and has elements of joy, and specifically queer joy to it, of finding acceptance. Those were all fantastic. But the story, the play out of both the main plot of this whole bike race thing and the play out of their romance was just plodding. And it doesn't look like that long of a book, but it is very long. I got about halfway through and I added the audio in order to do it hybrid reading, and the audio is 15 hours, which is pretty long for an audiobook. And it just felt like nothing was really happening or progressing, but you do very much get to know the characters. And I think that was the strength for me. So this was very middle of the road, I think, in terms of my overall enjoyment, but it's definitely an author that I would read from again because of the things that it was doing and the development of the characters, for sure. This particular book was just not a hit and overly slow. Next, let's go to the 2 Jackie Lau contemporary romances that I read. Jackie Lau is a very consistent, I think, favorite at this point in contemporary romance for me. She kind of always writes in the same framework of storytelling, but brings in different elements every time. So it always feels a little bit fresh, but comforting because you're coming back to some of the same things. Certainly those elements include food, is always prominent in all of the books I picked up of hers, whether it's part of the pitch or not. there's food throughout. Asian culture and family expectations are always really big. And I would say Canada, certainly as a setting, is usually very, very prominent and richly described. These people often live and move through Toronto in great depth. Even though I've never been there, yeah, you get descriptions of neighborhoods there and whatnot. So the first that I read was a novella. It's The Reluctant Heartthrob, and that is the second novella in the Choose Restaurant series that has all been short works so far. And Choose Restaurant is not a restaurant, in fact. It is a TV show. So it's inspired off of, I think, Kim's Convenience, something like that. So this one, we have that interaction or encounter with someone famous, basically, is the pitch. We have Ethan Park as one of the main characters, the hero of the story, who, as the reluctant heartthrob, he has been a serious actor and then come on this show and gained all this fame and heartthrob status that he doesn't really want that celebrity and fame surrounding him. He doesn't want the attention. So he frequently is trying to hide who he is a bit. And our other character, Robin, is a data scientist, and she has trouble recognizing faces. She's very introverted, and it also is a situation of her being undiagnosed autistic and grappling with that. So that was really interesting for me to see as someone who also has some level of face blindness that she was talking through, and that's comorbid with autism very, very frequently. So yeah, it was very relatable to me. But Robin doesn't know he's famous. She doesn't watch the show really, and she also is very, very introverted and doesn't want to go out and get a lot of attention on herself. So they definitely connect over that, I think. But initially, they connect because she has seen him at her favorite coffee shop frequently, and then is out with her friends, and her friends are kind of giving her a hard time because she never dates. And so when she recognizes him and brings that up, they dare her to go ask him out. And so she does that, but by telling him exactly what's going on, and he goes along with it. And then they hook up immediately. So that felt like it moved a little quickly for me, given who both of them are in terms of personality. But then that does turn into a little bit more of a slower burn romance, and not quite just a fling or immediate intense passion. And I loved seeing them get to know each other. So there also is a lot of that familial expectation and the family's disappointment that Robin doesn't date so much. And there is this disappointment laid on her from her family over what her life is and that she isn't that outgoing person. And I just loved that we do get to see Ethan kind of stand up for her and say, this is enough. It's okay that she's introverted, and it's okay for her to be herself in that space, and not live up to the way other people are. So I really, really liked that. But this was fairly short and sweet, and I really enjoyed it. Then finally, I went to Love, Lies, and Cherry Pie. This is one of Lau's traditionally published works, and I think for my liking, all three of her traditionally published novels have had a lot more drama and conflict between the romantic couple than her self-published works, including the previous novella that I just talked about. That's a self-published work. And I have just barely scratched the surface of her self-pubs. She has a vast back catalog, so I kind of need to dive in there more, I think. This is also the most recent book she has out, I believe. So this one was a little bit of a misfire, but I still enjoyed it, mainly because I don't go for the drama as much. So this one was also tough because it took so long to actually reach a romance. The premise here is that Emily is kind of a failure to launch, really, a bit. She is a published author, but she hasn't had that success that her parents want for her. She hasn't progressed in relationships. She's not really dating. She is shopping around her second book, I believe, at the start of the novel, and also writing her third while working part-time as a barista. So she hasn't hit those goals that her parents want for her. And her mom tries to set her up with Mark Chan, who is just the all-around guy that meets all the expectations and would be that perfect fit for what they want Emily's life to be. And of course, Emily is very grudging about that and at no point is even remotely open to it. She gets off on the wrong foot, taking complete misconceptions about Mark as a person and his motives for doing things, and is very abrasive with him, just constantly. So that goes on for a pretty significant portion of the book. However, while that's all happening, they in fact agree to fake date. Or she agrees to fake date with him, and he is kind of baffled by the situation. And through that first portion, we are indeed only getting her side of the story. We do eventually start to get his side of the story, and I think that's where it picked up for me, where we finally are seeing him be a little baffled by her impressions of him, and she is completely misrepresenting who he is, and he turns out to be like a very nice, genuine, open guy who is, I love this, a cat daddy with a social media account for his cat. And like he does have a great heart. And also, connecting back to the previous book, I love we once again do get the guy standing up to the family on behalf of the girl. I think that was really, really great, where basically all of these things that the family are putting on her that she's not living up to, you know, he does kind of stand up and say, yeah, she is good enough. What she wants is okay and is acceptable. And I really, really enjoy that element. I think a lot of people have the hero defending the heroine in a physical way. I like this much, much more than that sort of trope. So yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot. I didn't feel that the food was as big of a part as I kind of expected to. It definitely was there, but like pie wasn't this huge, huge element to it, even though it's in the title. Yeah, so food was throughout, but not significantly more than her other books where it's not thematic to the title of the book. I think that I was supposed to be more invested in the fake dating part, or it was supposed to be more enjoyable and entertaining than the dates actually were. And there is a whole element, I guess I've skipped over, that when they're fake dating initially, they aren't even going on dates. They're just lying to their families that they're dating and telling them they've gone on dates. But then because they're almost caught out, they have to go on actual dates. And that felt a little bit convoluted. So I didn't get into it as much while the fake dating was going on, and it took an awfully long time before they finally started really seeing each other genuinely as the real people that they were. I think I wish that element had been resolved a little more quickly and progressed into actually building the real relationship. And that was the falter for me. But as I said, I did still enjoy the book overall. It just took a while to get there. So I think that's it for my trio of romance reads. We didn't have any new favorites, but I did enjoy my time with all three of these. Especially, you know, with the two Jackie Laus, I'm now caught up on both of these series with what's been published so far, so that's great. I also am thrilled to have discovered a Shore Thing and have read a historical trans man romance, because that is so rare, and to see that kind of joyful take on a time when clearly there were barriers to acceptance and exploring that journey for Kit, our trans man. So I very much delighted in reading that as well. So that is it for me today. I thank you all so much for watching.